Okay, so we are live. So welcome to the first official lecture day for EM10. And we will actually have two topics for today. So I hope you don't mind na medyo isasagarin natin yung time, ano? So the first topic, official topic that we will be discussing for today is actually the socioeconomic importance and characteristics of the mineral industry. So these are the learning outcomes. I hope you read the learning outcomes by yourself. Hindi ko na siya di-discuss. Tapos ilalagay ko naman yung copy ng ating discussion sa Ovlet and even the slides. Ayan. So I was hoping any one of you would answer this kasi isa to sa pinaka infamous or rather famous mining sa in history, itong movie na ito. Would you know what this is? This is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was actually the first full feature film na animated ng Disney. So the Seven Dwarfs were miners, but of course, hindi na ganito ang pagmimina ngayon. Baka noong unang panahon, medieval ages, ganyan. But now, we don't do mining like this anymore. How about this? Are you familiar with this footage that I'm showing? Where did this come from? Okay. Anyone who would like to guess, if you can chat. Okay, before I say the answer. Obviously, indicate nyo na lang sa chat, please. Ayan. So this one is from the famous movie, I think this was 2 years ago, no? This was Black Panther, ayan, sa Wakanda Forever, sorry. I just remembered si Chadwick Boseman, one of the best people who lived ever, and RIP to him. And Wakanda Forever, the sequel is coming next year. Ayan, very excited for that. So Wakanda is actually a mining country. They're very rich because of the mineral vibranium. So hindi pa tayo maabot sa ganitong point, medyo futuristic, no? Yung may mga maglev sila na train and sobrang automated ng kanilang mining system. But hopefully in the decades or hundreds of years to come ay maging ganun tayo. Okay? So what is mining? Okay? Mining is essentially the extraction of all the things that you would need from under our feet, the naturally occurring minerals in particular. And why do we extract those things? It's actually for the purpose of humanity, for the purpose of civilization, to be able to use those. Okay? So ano naman yung mining engineering? So mining engineering is the field, okay? It's a branch of engineering, which means we apply math, science, and technology to harness or to get all of these or to extract all of these minerals from the earth, okay? And then you do extraction not just in a single swoop, you do it in different phases, okay? And then you do it in several stages. We will be discussing in a while ano ba yung mga stages in mining. But for now, please know that mining engineering is very technical in nature, but you have to consider sustainability. When you say sustainability, you have to consider the economics, the social aspect, as well as the environmental aspect. Those three, yung intersection ng tatlong yun. So they say that mining may have been or is actually the second earliest activity of man ever. What was the first? It was agriculture. Of course, we have to eat. Okay. So, but the second one, after we learned how to farm and to raise our own livestock, we realized na, oh, we need some tools. We need houses. We need so many things. So, nag-develop ang technology, nag-develop din ang mining. Okay. So, very interesting yan. If you see the image, I'll try to use my laser pointer here. This is one of the oldest maps of mining. This is called the Turin Papyrus map or Papyrus map. 3,000 years old na siya in Egypt. Wala tong kinalaman dun sa Turin na shroud ni Jesus sa Italy. Wala yun. Different Turin yun. And then this one is called the Lydian coin. The Lydian coin is one of the oldest coins that we have in history. It's made out of gold and silver. Also known as electrum, ELECTRUM, electrum. Okay, 7th century before Christ. And then this one here is locally ours. So this is called the Kinari. Nakita ito sa Surigao. Very interesting itong kwento na to. Nakita lang siya ng isang parang construction worker, tapos nasa loob siya ng crate. Tapos this dates back to the 10th to 13th century. So before pa nang dumating ang mga Kastila sa atin. So napakaraming mining activities in the past, and it has helped civilizations flourish through time. Now this one is one of the oldest techniques in mining. This is called fire setting, F-I-R-E, fire, and then setting, S-E-T-T-I-N-G. So fire setting, what they did is they actually made caverns by burning lots and lots of logs and wood underneath the ground. And then pag binurn nila siya, nagkakaroon ng excavation, okay? So this is one of the oldest techniques in mining, fire setting, ang tawag dyan. And then this is how it looked like. Ayan. So dito nagsunog yung mga sinaunang tao, no? One of the earliest techniques in mining. Now, you have an activity in Uvle. Make sure you do it. Yung nasa forum, I think you've watched this video. We won't watch the whole thing. I won't let you watch it anymore kasi sayang din sa time. But please do watch it as part of your forums. And some of you, I think, already answered. But just to remind you, we have activities in Ovlet. So make sure you answer that. Okay. So ganun din dito. Okay. So we have a saying in the mining industry, and it goes, if you cannot grow it, you have to mine it. And this is true. Imagine all of the things that we have now in modern civilization. If you didn't grow it, if it didn't come from trees, from agriculture, if you didn't farm it, if you didn't raise it in livestock, you would have gotten it from mining. So anything that your houses, your phones, the laptop that you are using right now, your house, I already said houses, the chairs, almost everything, no? In modern civilization comes from mining. And this is just some of the minerals that you can find in your smartphone. So halos lahat ng ginagamit natin ngayon ay nanggagaling sa ilalim ng lupa, no? Kung hindi man siya tinanim. So that's a fact, and we should be aware of that. Also, in terms of energy, majority of the energy that we get from the Philippines comes from coal, which is actually not quite a good thing. Kasi ang coal ay nag-exert or nag-release siya ng kapag binurn siya ng greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide. So we're trying to veer or steer away from using coal. But for so many years, coal, and until now, as of 2019, 41% pa rin tayo reliant, mainly ang ating kuryente, ang ating power sa coal. But of course, we know that throughout the years, nag-i-increase na yung ating reliance sa sustainable and environment-friendly methods of getting energy. So yun nga yung hydrothermal, geothermal, solar, wind, biomass, all those things. However, kahit na ganun, okay, take note, we will never get away from mining. Sabi kasi ng iba, okay, we have to go to renewables, hindi na natin kailangan ng mining in the future. But you need. Why? Because all of the things that you will need to harness the energy of the wind, the air, the sun, the hydropower, lahat pa rin yan, kailangan pa rin ng mining, no? Yung ating mga turbines or ating turbines ay constructed with steel or some other type of metal. Yung ating photovoltaic cells, yung ating mga solar cells ay gawa pa rin sa iba't iba at sari-saring mga minerals. And maaari ngang mas maging important pa ang mining pagdating sa future because of these. Okay? And one of the most important things is also the batteries. Okay, you have this wind turbines, we have these solar panels, but where do you store the energy? Batteries. And even the shift, di ba yung mga cars natin sa ibang bansa, pag pumunta kayo sa advanced countries like Norway, even China, they already shifting from the internal combustion engines, yung mga gasoline powered, now they're going into electric. Kaya sumikat ang Tesla, di ba, si Elon Musk. However, those are still reliant on mining. We still have to have all of those different metals for all of these, okay? By the way, if you have questions, again, make sure you chat, you use the chat box, okay, for those questions. Okay. Now, sabi din naman nila, every single newborn, or even yung hindi pa pinapanganak, no, bawat ipanganak na tao, each person will use around 2.92 to 3.11 million pounds. That's a lot of minerals in their lifetime. So, hindi ka pa pinapanganak or ipapanganak ka pa lang, meron na dapat na magagamit for that person. Okay? Napakarami, no? Lahat ng ito. Maaring metallic, non-metallic resources, all of those. Okay? Mining, please also take note of this important thing. Mining is also temporary land use. Sabi nga nila, walang forever sa mining. Okay? Kasi lahat ng things na kailangan ninyong, ang tawag dito, i-extract sa earth, okay, meron niyang limit, okay? So, ang ating mundo ay hindi niya kaya mag-produce at a very fast rate ng mga metals and minerals na magagamit natin, okay? So, usually, a mine site would just last for 10, 20, actually, may iba namang naglalast for 100 years or more. Pero meron at meron niyang katapusan. So, ang ating minerals ay hindi siya technically non-renewable. Okay? Kasi pwede siyang ma-renew, but in our lifetimes, it will not replenish itself. You have to wait for hundreds of millions of years. You have to wait in geological periods of time bago ulit magkaroon ng mga processes na nangyayari underneath our feet to replenish those. But for the meantime, of course, we can only get so much. So that's why we have to make sure that mining is done properly. Okay, so I would like to compare mining to this construction of one of the biggest arenas in the world. Well, in the world and even in Southeast Asia and in the Philippines. This is the Philippine arena. So this is what it looked like nung kinoconstruct pa siya. Diba? It's so ugly. It doesn't like tinanggal nila lahat ng vegetation. So that is actually what mining is. So habang ongoing yung operations ng mining, you're doing something to the earth. You really have to extract something. So kailangan mo talagang tanggalin yung vegetation. But afterwards, okay, you will see the final not really product, but the final output of a mine and a construction project. In this case, it's the arena. And in mining, it's what you call rehabilitation. It's the rehabilitated area for a mine. Now, you could even compare a construction site, or at least a constructed structure or a building, to a finished or a newly reclamated mine site. The difference pa nga is kapag nag-reclaim ka or nag-rehabilitate ka ng area for mining, yung area na yun ay naibalik mo na, maaring naibalik mo na yung original conditions niya, na-revegetate mo na siya ulit, or maybe you have used it for something else, maaring ginawa mo siyang lake or fishing lake, or you have made it into a tourist destination for tourists, and you can use it for eco tourism. Now, ang major difference niya dito, ito, ang dami mong tinanggal, pero hindi mo na binalik. Forever nang mawawala yung mga trees na yun kasi may building ka na eh. So that's actually one of the things that maybe you could think about, na alin ba ang mas, ang tawag dito, mas devastating? Yung mining na i-rehabilitate mo naman in the future, or urbanization na, lalo na yung mga bahay-bahay, di ba? Forever na yun nandun, mawawala na yung vegetation doon, nawala na yung flora and fauna, pinaalis mo na yung mga indigenous creatures doon. Unlike sa mining, they can always, or they can come back, you can actually do something for the site to make it full of life again. Ayan. So, saan ngayon papasok ang mga mining engineers? So, these are the tasks of those 3 courses na sinabi kong related sa mining engineering. Actually, may pang-apat dito, no? So a geologist would often come in at the beginning because they are the experts in locating and exploring mineral deposits. And then metallurgical engineers would come after mining because they would process, refine, and fabricate what has been mined. And then finally, the environmental scientists or engineers, the environmentalists, would actually have a part in the closure, the reclamation, and the rehabilitation of a mine. A mining engineer would often come in here, proving, planning, developing, and exploiting of mineral deposits. Lahat ng ito ay solely para sa mining engineer. But if a mining engineer would actually rise up the ranks and become the mine manager, it is dictated by law that a person who will take charge of a mine, a whole mine, is actually a mining engineer. Okay, so yan ang task. Anything that has to do with mining, actually, mining engineers can actually work on that. Okay, and we have to be aware of so many things in terms of mining. That's why in the next set of slides, we will define some of the definitions that are related to mining. First, let's define ano ba ang mineral. So, ang mineral at ano rin ang rock, okay? So, ang mineral ay maraming definitions, but one of the most usual acronyms that we use is this, NIHDO and NIDO. I think the geology students in this class, kung meron man, ay alam na ito, or maybe if you, I don't know if you study this in your earth science. So how do you define if something is a mineral? So you may try to guess in the chat before I show it, but I will now show it then. So N is for naturally occurring. So it has to naturally occur. Next is inorganic. When you say inorganic, ideally, it's not made by natural or not made by biological processes. Okay. Next would be, it should be a solid in its form. Homogeneous dapat ang kanyang form. And then it should have definite chemical composition. Okay. Ibig sabihin, kaya mo siyang ma-define as a chemical formula. And then it has ordered internal structure. This is very important. It has to be crystalline. Its structure should be well-formed at repeating in such a way na yung itsura niya, kapag hinawakan mo siya sa kamay at kumuha ka ng isa pang sample na pareho ng mineral, dapat magkamukha sila. Kasi pag tinignan mo rin siya under the microscope, dapat same sila ng crystal structure. Okay? Now, a rock naman is any combination of one or more types of mineral particles. Okay? So, ang rock, pwedeng marami siyang minerals na pinagsama-sama together. Pwede rin na isang mineral lang siya. Okay? Na hawak mo. So, that's a rock. So, a rock can be a mineral. Okay? So, yun. Now, my question is, okay, this is a question that hopefully you can try to answer. If you know now the definition of a mineral, NIDO, naturally occurring inorganic, homogeneous solid, definite chemical composition, ordered internal structure, is ice a mineral? Can you think about it just for a short while? Maybe try to answer yes or no, or maybe in the chat if you can for the next few seconds. No right or wrong answers. We'll try to analyze it as we go along. Okay. Meron ba nagta-try sumagot? Sige, sige, okay. So, let's try to gauge, okay? Or let's try to go by it one by one. Is ice, ice. There are two types of ice, by the way. This one is ice cube na nasa fridge. Ito yung iceberg, okay? Okay, let's see. Is ice naturally occurring? Okay. So, if it's iceberg, then yes, it's naturally occurring. But the ice in your fridge may not be naturally occurring because you induced it, okay? So, inorganic is the formation of ice involving biological processes. Not necessarily, no. I haven't heard a creature pooping ice. Ayan. But if there is, then yeah, that's interesting. So, wala na siya agad sa mineral kung may ganun nga nangyari. Next, is it a homogeneous solid? Yes, it's basically pretty much ice all throughout. Does it have a definite chemical composition? Yes. So definitely it is H2O. And then finally, does it have ordered internal structure? Is ice or are icebergs crystalline? For this case, for icebergs, yes. Okay. For this one, the left one, not necessarily kasi sometimes hindi na nabibigyan ng chance makapag-crystallize yung ano, no? Pero yung iceberg, they come from snowflakes. And snowflakes are very crystalline. Ang ganda nga ng patterns niya, di ba? That's because of the molecular structure. And for that, it means that ice from icebergs are technically minerals. So, okay. So, ganun niya siya i-define. Kung paano nyo malalaman kung mineral ba ang something or hindi? O another question, is coal a mineral? Halimbawa yung coal. Okay, we will discuss more about coal. So, is that a mineral? Okay, that's something for you to think about. We will try to answer that in the next few meetings. Okay. Next, let us define the following. So, ore is a mineral deposit that has sufficient utility and value to be mined at a profit. Okay. Kapag sinabing ore, connotated na lagi, attached na lagi sa definition ng ore ang profit. Ibig sabihin, pinagkakakitaan mo siya or may value na siya, may halaga ang ore. Hindi lang siya basta-basta mineral, it's a mineral that has value and it can be mined at a profit. Next, waste naman. Anything that has to be thrown out, it's actually waste. So some minerals can be considered as waste if they do not have inherent value or wala silang halaga. Kawawa naman no, tinatapon yun. Basta walang halaga. Well, ganun talaga. Well, bakit ka naman kukuha, di ba? Kung hindi mo naman siya magagamit or pagkakakitaan. So, it's called waste. Okay? So, anything. Not necessarily minerals, ha? So, lahat. Pwede rin organic matter. What else can be na hindi mineral. So, lahat ng tinatapon. Yung specific na type ng waste na minerals na tinatapon or dinidiscard at walang value, yun ang tinatawag na gang. G-A-N-G-E. Okay? So, parang subset ang gang ng waste. Ang waste in general is everything that you throw out. But if it's a mineral, okay, that's part of an ore deposit, okay, it's gang. Okay? Take note of that. Now, let's talk about naman the macro scale of mining and the mineral industry. Majority of the world's minerals are actually processed or at least mined in one country that's very big. It's here, you can see, it's China. So technically, they really are number one in terms of all of the different, anong tawag dito, metals and minerals that are mined on Earth and even processed. All of these, yeah. Okay. So, anong significance nun or anong implication nun? Therefore, in terms of the world scale, we are heavily reliant on China. In particular, even in the Philippines, yung mga minamine natin na nickel, for example, ay napupunta sa China para i-process. That can be both a bad thing and a good thing. But of course, wouldn't it be better if you process those things in the Philippines so we ourselves can add value and it can add to our economic growth? Okay, something to think about. Now, for the future of mining, these three things, well, maraming in demand, no? Maraming mga metals na in demand. Pero itong tatlong to ang ilan sa mga pinaka-promising at pinaka-magiging in demand in the future. Including nickel na rin. Wala siya sa list na to. But it's also important. You have cobalt, lithium, and graphite. Bakit kaya? Do you have a guess? I actually think I said a while ago something that might be related as to why these three or even nickel are important in the future. And the answer is actually yes, electrification, batteries, renewable energies, lahat yan, since that is the future, then these minerals are going to increase in their potential usage. Okay, take note of that. Now, just a trivia, did you know that in a majority of our cobalt around the world is actually coming from this African country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Medyo parang halos monopolize niya, no? Well, this is an issue that they are trying to address now kasi unfortunately sa Congo, ang daming small-scale mines dahil napakaraming nilang cobalt, madaming nag-go talaga sa mining. Ang problema dyan, hindi siya nare-regulate. Even the children, may child labor sila na malaking issue sa Congo. So, isa yan sa, parang malaking issue natin. No? Paano tayo mag-electrify? Nakaasa tayo sa isang country on cobalt na medyo sketchy or at least napakaraming kailangang ayusin sa kanilang mining industry. Okay? Ayan. So how about for the Philippines? So we've seen some of the things around the world. Marami pa akong kwento in the next few meetings about mga chismis ganyan, about what's happening elsewhere. But for the Philippines, according to research, we are actually one of the most mineralized countries in the world, especially for gold, nickel, copper, and chromite. Okay, why? Because of our location. We are found in the Pacific Ring of Fire. We have a lot of volcanic activity. We have a lot of earthquake activity here. So that's both a blessing and a curse. Kasi those processes then, if your crust and if all of your volcanics, if all of your faults are very active, then that is actually also how these minerals are emplaced in these locations. So it's both a blessing and a curse for us, and that's what's make us rich in these minerals. There are many people, especially anti-miners, who are saying that we are, or the mining industry is actually depriving the Philippines of all of its land. Okay, inuubos daw natin ang kalupaan, pati yung kagubatan sa Pilipinas. But if you look at this map here on the right side, you cannot even see, can you even see that where the, anong tawag dito, mining sites are? It's colored red. I'll try to zoom it in, ha. Ito lang siya. Ito, ay, nasa yung pointer ko. Hindi ko pala mapo-pointer. Pero ito, sa Surigao, we have some in Palawan, we have some in here, some in here. Kalat-kalat. Pero not one is very visible to see. Baka sabihin niyo itong black na dot. The black na dot, itong nasa NCR na part, that's actually Quezon City. Quezon City is even more prominent than any of the mine sites in the Philippines. In fact, according to this nga, the metallic mining footprint, anong year ito? I believe this was 2018, ayan, is 0.049. And we haven't even increased much, okay? So, hindi totoo yon na inuubos ng pagninina ang mga kalupaan sa Pilipinas. Okay? Baka mas totoo pa yung urbanization, no? Yung mga subdivisions, yung ating mga bagong bahay, instead na, kasi dumadami talaga yung tao, no? So, sino ba dapat ang sisihin? Okay? So, yun. That's something for you to think about. Okay, another thing that they, that others are pinpointing towards the mining industry is deforestation. Sabi nila, inuubos daw ng mining ang kagubatan natin. Okay, imagine kung ganito ka konti ang mga mining sites, ibig sabihin yan lang yung binubungkal na lupa. So, sino may kasalanan nito nung pag deforest from 1900 up to 1999, no? Thankfully, medyo na-increase naman yan in the past few years kasi ang dami nating projects for reforestation. Pero hindi pa rin. Siguro mga gantong levels pa rin tayo. So, sinong sisisihin? Tayo din. Kasi we need all of these timbers, we need all of these plant products, nagkaroon din ng urbanization, but it cannot be solely attributed or at least blamed to mining. In fact, mining has actually helped a lot in terms of reforestation activities in the country. This one, from 2011 to 2013, 34,000 hectares na ang nag-green or nagawang green. Ng mining lang ito, ha, mining sector pa lang to. May national greening program na kasama ang mga mining companies sa pag-reforest or at least pagtatanim back nung ating mga kagubatan, and 34,000 na. And as of 2015, nakalagay dito 47,000. This was 6 years ago. Okay, the most recent data that I have is from last year. Okay, so mining industry contribution to 2020 GDP is estimated at 102 billion. This is the main headline. Pero it was mentioned there. Dapat ito yung headline actually kasi very important ito. It added 36.87 million seedlings. Okay, and 28,700 plus hectares of land, okay, na reforest na. Okay, why is that? Kasi nga, may tinatawag tayong rehabilitation program ng ating mga large-scale mines. Okay, ayan. By the way, if you have questions, just please put it in the chat and then we will try to answer those questions at the end of the session. Okay? So, sabi naman ng ibang mga anti-mining, ang mining daw, napakaliit lang daw ng contribution niya sa bansa. So, tanggalin lang natin mining kasi hindi naman siya nakakabuti. Di ba? Binubungkal yung lupa, pinapatag daw yung mga bundok, ganyan. So, ano maitutulong ba ng mining? Napakaliit. 1% lang naman daw of the economy ang naitutulong niya sa GDP natin, sa gross domestic product. It's pronounced gross, by the way. It's not gross. Wala lang. 4% daw lang ito ng exports. Tapos 0.5 lang daw ang ma-employ nito sa buong labor force ng buong bansa. That's 197,000 jobs, okay? And then 1.1 ng national government revenues ay galing sa mining. Yun lang daw, Okay. Of course, if you look at percentages, parang maliit siya. Para lang sa ano, no? Para lang sa nangyayari ngayon sa pandemic. Numbers are just numbers until you are really experiencing it. For those people who are part of these statistics, na just statistics, it's their whole lives. So imagine that. Meron din tayong misnomer na wala naman daw palang ambag sa ekonomiya ang ano, no? So sinampal siya ni Batman. Hindi yun ganun kasimple because, okay, let's try to answer that question in a short while. Okay, maliit daw ba talaga ang ambag ng mining sa ating ekonomiya? Now, what's the number one export product of the Philippines? Can you take a guess? Again, use the chat for the next few seconds. Try to guess. Ano kaya ang number one export product of the Philippines? Try to guess. Okay, try to guess. No right or wrong answers. You won't be judged. Okay, sige. Okay. So the actual answer, according to this data from the Observatory of Economic Complexity, as of 2016 and 2017 then, it's actually integrated circuits. Are we surprised about that? Okay, so marami tayong electronics actually na ina-assemble at mina-manufacture sa Pilipinas. Interesting yun, no? And saan ba gawa itong mga manufactured na electronics na ito? Of course, they have components that are mined. And interestingly, another important thing here to note, significant po ang ating exports ng copper, ng nickel, and some other metals, okay? Gold, ayan, nandito din siya, gold. Bananas, we have coconut oil, ayan. So, those are just some na mga major exports natin. Okay? Hopefully though, even though na ang laki-laki ng export natin, no? If you notice dun sa data kanina, bakit parang ang konti ng contribution niya sa GDP? Kasi yung value nito ay hindi pa ganun kalaki. Imaginein mo, ano ang mas mabenta? Yung isang pirasong iPhone na may maliliit na pirasong metal o isang bato na nagko-contain ng same amount of metal? Diba, syempre bibilin mo yung iPhone at imagine how much is that? That's around 60 to 100,000 pesos ang iPhone 13 Plus, Pro Max pala. Ayan. So, kasi nalagyan mo na siya ng value, na-process mo na siya. So, ganun din dito. Okay? So, hopefully, in the future, I'm one of the advocates na sana ay magkaroon tayo ng further downstream processes of these metals that would really, really help our GDP. Ano? Kasi hindi tayo nagkaroon ng industrialization sa Pilipinas. Medyo nag-skip tayo. Naging ang largest resource natin ngayon, ito mga export to, no, na products. Pero in terms of the national economy, ang pinaka ine-export din talaga natin ay alam nyo kung ano? Tao. OFWs. We have a lot of good people, really ang tawag dito, skilled workers, experts who are working abroad and in the country. Service-oriented tayo. Pero sana wag mapag-iwanan yung ating mga resources kasi ang napakalaking potential ang ma-unlock dyan. Okay, to answer yung sagot din kanina ni yung sinampal ni Batman si Robin, hindi ganun kasimple kasi pag tinignan nyo naman per region, there are regions in the Philippines that are very heavily mining and quarry dependent. Like for example, this one, Caraga, is heavily dependent on quarrying and mining. 22%, that's the largest contributor to their gross domestic product in that region in Caraga. So, kung tinanggal mo yan, o paano ngayon yung mga kabuhayan ng mga tao dyan? Ganon din dito sa Mimaropa. Okay? So, at hindi rin nare-realize siguro ng iba na, okay, pag tinanggal ang mining, saan kayo kukuha ng pangtayo ng mga gusali ninyo? Saan kayo kukuha ng pang build, right? So, we cannot really go totally no mining. Kasi kung wala, edi we have to export, edi mas mapapamahal pa tayo. So, something to think about. Okay? So, did you also know that the Philippines is one of the largest, okay, exporters or at least producers of nickel around the world? In the world ito ha. So imagine, we are number 2 currently, there was a time that we were number one. Noong 2017, we were number one. Naungusan tayo ng Indonesia for the past 2018, 19, 20, 21. Pero may policy kasi sila na ipaprocess na nila yung kanilang nickel ore sa Indonesia. So medyo nag-ban sila ng exports. So sana in a way gayahin natin sila. Lilit ang kanilang exports pero tataas ang value ng kanilang mga products na iaangkat abroad. So hopefully we can also do that. Okay? Nabanggit ko na to. So yung ating build, napakaraming binibuild, di ba? So at proud na proud tayo o yung iba sa mga binibuild na ito. So saan ba nanggagaling yung mga pang ano dito, pang construct, right? So all of these are actually coming from aggregates, metals that are actually mined as well. So napakaraming projects na heavily reliant. There was actually one time, an instance, nung panahon ni RIP Gina Lopez, pero yeah, more I will talk about her in a while or maybe some other meeting, na ini-stop lahat ng mining, pati yung quarries. Bigla sila nagka-problem. Nako, may build. So saan kukuha? So wala silang choice. But the good thing about that, when Gina Lopez came around, is that it's an eye-opener for the mining industry that we really have to do things correctly. So one of the best things that has come from her coming in the DNR is many mining companies basically yung kanilang act. They ano nga yung quote, ano nga yung sinasabi na yun? Anyways, so inayos nila basically yung kanilang mga practices in terms of mining practices. So yun. Okay, another common misconception is wala daw natutulong ang mining sa communities. Of course, it's wrong, definitely wrong. Okay. These are the potential mining sites in the Philippines. Okay, there are a lot. We have a lot of minerals all around the country. Yung pinakita ko sa inyong maliit na mga dots kanina, wala pa yun sa kanunok-nunukan ng potential ng Philippines. And napakarami nating minerals. Maybe even in hundreds of years, hindi yun agad-agad mauubos. And even mare-replenish yun kasi we're a very active country in terms of geological activity. But of course, that will take hundreds of millions of years. But still, we are very rich. And these are some of the activities that are being done by large-scale mining companies all around the country. One of which is, this one is in Atlas, Carmen Copper in Cebu. Meron silang mga programs, napakarami nilang programs sa kanilang livelihood. Especially kapag may mining site kasi sa isang lugar, napapagyaman nila yung mga neighboring or at least host communities. Okay? So since malapit ito sa dagat, meron silang support for the fishermen, di ba? So ang naalala ko dito yung quote, give a man a fish for a day, give a man a fish, they will eat for a day, but teach a man to fish, they will get to eat for a lifetime. So parang ganun yung nangyayari dito. And also, many mining companies know that mining will not last kasi diba wala nga forever. So what they do is they actually give livelihood training, they educate the people, they give projects, a lot of these very useful projects para kahit wala na yung mine, mag-close na at mag-rehabilitate na yung mine, may pagkakakitaan pa rin yung mga tao. Okay? One of the more important things na nakakapaggawa sa mining na maging sustainable siya is actually education. Yes, if you actually go to many mines around the country, this is an example, this is in Rio Tuba Nickel Mining Corporation sa Palawan. Isa sila sa pinaka-advanced ang basic education. Why? Look at the students facilities there. Lahat sila naka-iMac, ready sila for remote learning. Ang laki ng support sa mga host communities, not only with the facilities, learning facilities, scholarships, research. Napakaraming nagagawa ng large-scale mining if done properly sa isang community. All of these are mandated by law. Okay, we will try to talk about some of the laws that are mandated by the government to support the communities that are under mining hosted communities. So something to look forward in the next few meetings. And of course, agriculture. Okay, so agriculture and mining can actually go hand in hand. Okay, kapag na-rehabilitate na yung area, kapag nagawa na ulit ng enrichment yung ating mga soil in that area, you can actually do agriculture again. And many of the companies are actually doing this. Kasi may mga lugar na hindi talaga pwede mag-agriculture. Siyempre sa bundok, yung bato, hindi naman pwede magtanim doon. Pero there are cases, for example, nickel mines, these are soil, literally. So pwedeng tamnan, tapos yung mga tao, tinitrain nila to enhance their agricultural products. There are a lot of products now na coming into the market na hindi nyo pala alam, yung mga organic na farming, galing pala siya sa mining site. So, okay. This is another example. This is corn, I believe. This is in Bulacan, if I remember correctly. This is an actual post of a Facebook friend na ang mine nila, well, in this case, this is an aggregate mine for cement and construction. Ang pag-rehabilitate nila sa farming naman ay corn. Okay, so there are a lot of things that mining is actually doing for the communities. Another is this, there's a lot of housing and free everything, almost everything. Literally, I'm not exaggerating this. Sa mga nakatira sa mining communities, if you're a worker there, more often than not, supported ng company ang iyong pabahay, kuryente, tubig, yun. So, as in titira ka na lang. Kaya yung iba, dinadala talaga yung kanilang pamilya sa mga mining communities. Diba? Sana all ganun, diba? Parang subsidized talaga. Tapos may incentives pa. Tapos kumikita ka pa. Tapos pag uwi mo, nandun na agad yung family mo. Diba? So, yan. Sometimes nakakainggit, no? So, mas masarap pa ang buhay nila doon. So, napakaraming support na binibigay sa mga ganitong communities. Now, another very important factor is kapag may sakuna, dahil ang ating mga mining companies, they are found in the far-flung reaches of the country and usually nasa bundok. Kapag may accident, okay, the miners are actually very trained. They're very much trained in terms of first aid, safety and health. The miners or the mining companies even, they are sometimes and more often than not, the first responders. Kasi sila din yung may heavy equipment eh. So, kapag may na-block na road, okay, tapos sila yung nag-unblock. So, lalo na mahihirapan yung mga galing sa baba, sa mga yung government help, 'di ba? Aakyat pa yan. So, paano kung block yung road? So, they are helping the communities and these areas in terms of so many things. And imagine even yung road itself, kapag malapit ka sa mining company, yung road most likely na papunta doon, yung mining company yung nag-budget noon. So imagine they're building roads, they're making the lives of the people there. Well, ideally they should be working in making the lives of the people there better. So napakaraming hindi ito madalas na ibabalita or at least nakikita ng ating mga kababayan na nasa cities or nasa But if you go, sometimes mas maganda pa talaga yung buhay nila doon. Okay? Even the rivers there, like for example, Rio Tuba, laging kino-compare ito laging shady ang Rio Tuba pag nag-advertise sila. Yung river nila doon, mas malinis pa kaysa sa mga rivers, sa kahit anong river na nasa city sa Pilipinas. Kasi of course, ours in the urban areas are heavily polluted. So yun. And that would be the end of this short introductory lecture. Meron pa tayong another lecture. Okay? I hope you hang on tight. If you have questions, please ask them in the chat now while I set up the second lecture. Yung second lecture, mas mabilis lang to. This is just, this is just stages of mining. Ayan. Okay, again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Ayan. Huwag mahiya magtanong. Walang, sinasabi ko nga in this class, there's no such thing as a bobo question. We will learn from each other. If you have comments as well, reactions, go ahead. It's very, very much welcome. Ayoko na ako lang din nagsasalita for the next 1.5 hours. So nakakapagod sa aking lalamunan. Okay? So now let's have stages of mining. I hope it's also still being seen. So stages of mining, these are the learning outcomes. Please read them. Okay? So mining again, okay, balikan natin ito. So na-discuss na natin to, yung definition ng mining na ito ang pagkuha ng mga kailangan basically from our feet, underneath our feet. okay, for the purpose of humankind. And then ore, again, is mineral deposit na may value, okay, at may halaga, okay, mabibigyan ng profit. Ngayon, punta tayo sa stages of mining. There are actually just a few stages of mining. Kayang-kayang bilangin sa inyong kamay, okay? So, there is the first stage of mining, okay? Ano kaya tong nasa picture na to? Would you know? Can you try to at least take a guess? Ano kayang ginagawa nila? Okay? This stage of mining is called prospecting. What is prospecting? From the root word prospect, you're looking for the presence of minerals. Okay? You're trying to look, ano kaya ang meron doon? And that's it. That's the definition of prospecting. You're trying to identify and measure, what's underneath our feet. There are clues. Okay, para silang detectives, naghahanap sila ng anomalies. Ano ang anomalies? These are geologic features that are markedly different from their surroundings in terms of composition, texture, and genesis. Kapag hindi siya katulad nung nasa paligid niya, that's an anomaly. Technically, poop of an animal, like si Bar, ayan, tutulog siya. Ay, nasan siya? Hindi ko alam. Kung si Bar ay nagpoop, that's an anomaly on the soil. But that's not the kind of anomaly we're looking for in prospecting. The kind of anomaly is a clue that there are minerals that are valuable underneath. Okay. Ayan. So prospecting. There are two main types of prospecting. That's direct. Okay. Kung may direct, obviously indirect yung pangalawa. Okay. Pag sinabing direct, this is usually you're looking at. Etong nasa picture, that's direct. They're looking directly on the surface. Okay. So it's the visual examination of exposures or tinatawag na outcrops of the deposits, and you're looking at loose fragments or floats, okay? Pag sabing float, yun yung mga parang durug-durug na bato, okay? Or some other things on top of the ground that are weathered away. And you can do this by means of aerial photography, such as in this photo, ayan, ito pala yung aerial photography, geologic maps, structural assessment of an area, that's how you do it. So those are the direct methods. So sabi ko nga, kung may direct, may indirect. Ito naman yung gumagamit ng geophysics and even geochemistry. Okay? So anong geophysics and geochemistry? We will discuss more about this in the future. But for now, geophysics is the science of detecting anomalies using physical measurements. Okay? So ito yung some of the examples of geophysical methods. Gravitational, seismic, magnetic, electrical, electromagnetic, radiometric. Those are just some. Napakadami. Okay? So madali siyang magets, at least in general idea. So you're using gravity, you're using seismic waves, you're using magnetism, you're using electrical properties to detect ano ba ang meron doon. Pag geochemistry naman, from the word itself, chemistry, you're looking into the chemistry of the soil, the rock, the water samples, even the plants, and even the animals in an area to know what is there. Okay? I hope that's easy for you to understand. So this is the first stage of mining. So this is from our main reference. By the way, our main reference for EM10 is Introductory Mining Engineering, 2nd edition by Hartman and Mutmansky. So sana maka-attend kayo sa orientation para paano kayo maka-access nito. I think there are also some ways na hindi ko na i-describe. Kung marunong kayo mag-search ng in the internet, there are means to get this book. Ayan. Pero not necessarily, kahit wala kayong book, actually, makakauno kayo dito sa you don't need to read. But I think I would recommend if you have time, you can try to browse it. Especially mga EM dito. Ayan. By heart, dapat alam niyo yung mga nilalaman ng book na yun. Anyway, so prospecting for mineral deposits, these are the activities. Ito lang din yung describe ko kanina. Let's not mind that. Let's look at the time. So the time is actually 1.3 years, 1 to 3 years. So not 1.3, 1 to 3 years, and it costs a lot. So 0.2 to 10 million dollars yan ha. So times 48 or times 50 pa yan. So that's a lot. Okay, imagine wala pa kayong kinikita dyan. You're just looking if something is there. So napakagastos ng mining. So next stage is this one. Again, take a guess. Ano kayang ginagawa nila dito? You can put it in the chat if you want to take a guess. This one is called exploration. The exploration is the second stage. When you say exploration, after prospecting, if you found something there underneath the ground, now you look for how much there is under there. So this is more detailed surveys, looking for precise information ngayon ng ano na ngayon yung halaga or at least how much there is and what's the characteristics of the mineral deposits underground, like size, shape, grade, and even the value. Okay. Pag sinabing grade, by the way, you will often hear about this. Grade is relatively the quantity, pwede ring percentage of a mineral or metal content in an ore body. Okay? So, iba-iba ang units ng grade depende sa mineral. For example, sa copper, it's percent. So, ibig sabihin, pag sabing 0.5% copper, ibig sabihin yung bato na yung 0.5% copper. Tapos kapag gold usually, or mga, ayan, gold, platinum, silver yan, grams per metric ton. G per metric ton yung kanyang, ang tawag dito, grade. Okay. So yun. Pwede rin parts per million. Kasi if you calculate it, 1 gram is 1 millionth of a metric ton. Yeah. So parts per million or grams per metric ton. Okay. So sa exploration naman, ano naman ang mga important things dito? So one thing that is done during the exploration phase is called the feasibility study. We will learn more about that in the future. Ito ngayon yung study, or at least it's a research done by many experts kung kaya ba magmina sa isang lugar. Kaya ba or hindi? Kasi kung hindi, syempre, they would maybe forgo it in the meantime. Okay? Tapos, ganito siya katagal ginagawa ang exploration, 2 to 5 years after nung exploration, nung prospecting rather. So, this is how it costs. Mas mahal, no? $1 million to $15 million. Okay? Bakit siya nagiging mahal? Yung ginagawa dito sa picture na to is called drilling. Okay? Ang cost ng drilling ay napakamahal. So imagine if you're gonna drill something under the ground, that 1 meter of drilling, dahil bato ang dinidrill mo, would cost around, I estimate siguro mga 20,000 to 30,000 per meter yun ha, 1 meter pa lang. Eh syempre, ang lalim-lalim ng inyong i-drill. So more on these information later on. So pahapyaw pa lang yun. We will talk about drilling in the next few meetings. Okay? So yan. This is the cost for every metric ton. So $0.22 to $1.65 ang ginagastos for every metric ton. Okay. Next stage. Okay? This is anong nakikita ninyo sa next stage? So we have prospecting, exploration. Ano kaya itong pangatlong ito? So this one is called development. This is now, sometimes they call it construction phase. So kasi ito, dito ngayon, dinedevelop lahat ng equipment, facilities, acquisition, construction. Yes, lahat ng kino-construct dito, pati lahat na rin ng piniprepare, yung mga permits, ganyan, kung hindi pa nagawa ng exploration phase, dito siya pinaprocess. Ayan. So development, okay. Ano bang gusto ko sabihin dito? You can just read these. I will give you a copy of these slides. You can just read what it's being done here. Pero ang isa din sa important things ay yung pagpo-procure nung rights nung land. May agreement yan. Of course, may contract. Kailangan mong bilhin then technically or mag-apply for a certain parcel of land. Of course, lahat ng equipment, roads, assessments, yan. May mga experts kang babayaran syempre kasi sila yung mag-a-assess at sila ang maggagawa ng iyong mga reports, ganyan. Napakaraming ginagawa sa development phase at napakamahal niya. Imagine, you will be doing this for the next 2 to 5 years at $10 to $500 million ang kanyang cost. Okay? Imagine, mula prospecting hanggang development, wala pa kayong kinikita kung ikaw ay mining company. Wala ka pang kikitain for the first 10, even 15 years. Okay? Lahat yon tinitignan mo lang kung may something ba doon, pagkakakitaan mo ba siya in the future, may value ba yung nandoon. Okay? Now, saan ngayon papasok yung mag-extra ka na? Ito. At karamihan ng mga tao, ito lang yung alam nilang mining. Pag inisip nyo mining, okay, bulkal na agad. No, there's a lot of things going into the planning of mining. Okay, so one of which, ito na nga, yung exploitation phase, also known as production or operation. Yung exploitation, I tend to veer away from this term kasi parang ang ano niya, no, ang negatively connotated. So, I usually use the terms production or operation. Pero technically, it's exploitation. It's the actual recovery of minerals, milling, ito na rin yung processing ng ore to obtain higher concentrations or mapataas mo yung value ng mineral na kinukuha mo. Okay, there are two main types of exploitation or at least production or mining methods. You have surface and underground. More on this pagdating kay Ma'am Cheska. You will discuss all of the things that are being done in the um, exploitation or production or operation phase. Okay? So, ito ang cost niya. Siya rin ang isa sa pinakamahal na phase. Kasi imagine, 5 to 75 million dollars, that is per year. And how long will a mine last? That's around 10 to 30. Sometimes they extend it to 50, even more years. So you multiply that. Napaka-gastos. Pero the good thing about this is meron ka ng income. Okay? May ginagastos kang operating expenses, pero may pumapasok na rin income. Okay? So for the next 10 to 30 or more than that years, you will now extract. And this is an example of how it's being done underground. This is a surface mine. And this one as well. I know what you're thinking. Oh my gosh, they are removing all of the vegetation. Pinapatag talaga yung lupa. Okay. Of course, that will happen. How do you extract without doing that? Okay, but the question is, what do you do after? The more important is, what do you do after? And that's the last stage of mining that I also mentioned earlier. It's called rehabilitation, also known as reclamation or restoration. This is now returning the land to pre-mining conditions or even hosting a self-sustaining ecosystem for both flora and fauna. You can actually also repurpose it for something else such that may buhay pa rin after the mining. Okay? You are not killing per se, but you are trying to revive it somehow after the mining. Okay? Now, the question is, when do you do or when do you begin rehabilitation? Ang pagpaplano sa rehabilitation, unang-una pa lang, ginagawa mo na siya. Kahit bago ka pa magbungkal sa lupa, first excavations, even before that, even during the prospecting stage or even exploration, you should already be thinking about rehabilitation. And it is mandated by the law of the Philippines or even anywhere in the world that you should do rehabilitation, okay, for mines, okay? The time for rehabilitation can last from 1 year to 10 years. And it can cost from $1 to $20 million. So, napakamahal din yan, no? Ayan, so there's a lot of things being done here. So, you remove the buildings, you remove the waste, you reclaim it, you monitor discharges, especially yung mga pumupunta sa ilog and sa katubigan, ganyan. Okay? You do all of that for rehabilitation and reclamation. This is an example that I think we showed this in the orientation for EM. This is a mine in Palawan. Okay, look at it before and then look at it now. Hindi to pabalik ha, baka sabihin nyo, ni-reverse ko. No, that's actually the mine and then what it looks like now. So the forest has returned. This is just in a couple of years. I have friends there who would say na even the animals would actually come back. That's really happy. I'm really happy to hear that. Unless they're imagining things and it's all in their head. But of course, yung pala ano no, may mga elemento na pala na naririnig sila. Charot. It's really the animals there. Okay. So, ayan, may cameo ng isang ating kilala naman natin siya kung sino siya. So, sila yung family nila actually may mining company sa Mindanao, okay? And some of the alumni of UP would actually work there. Thankfully, they are actually adhering to to environmental practices. Thankfully, yung mine nila ha, but I could not say the same for I'm not sure dun sa mga other nilang projects, no? Yung subdivision sila na napakarami. So, yan. I will not say anything more. Okay. So, here naman are some of the other rehabilitated mines in the Philippines. This is in Negros, I believe. I forgot which Negros ko, Occidental or Oriental. Occidental, yes. This one is in the Philex Sipalay mine. Wala na kayong makikitang bakas ng mine. Ito na siya. Ito na yan, yung parang before na mine. Ito na siya after. There's a huge lake that used to be the open pit, okay? At napakarami ng na tumitira, may mga ducks na dyan, may mga fish, ayan. I'm not sure if they're using it as fishery, of course. There's a lot of studies that have to be done to make sure that this happens. Kasi kapag mataas pa ang metal content, hindi siya maganda, no? So pero there are actually ways on how to neutralize the toxicity and even the metal content of the land, and that's where environmental engineers or at least experts would come in. Let's go back lang to sustainability for a bit. Sabi ko nga, may tatlong aspects tayo ng sustainability para ma-make sure mo na nangyayari nga siya talaga. You have economic, you have environmental, and social. So you have to meet all of these three to make sure that the future generations would still have something in their generation. So you're making sure that the needs of the present in terms of these three are still being ang tawag dito, are used and are taken care of, okay, considering the future of the people. Okay. Hindi ko alam kung alam nyo tong meme na ito. This guy was famous like a couple of years ago. I made this part of the slide couple of years ago. So sabi niya kasi advance siya mag-isip. No, advance mag-isip sa pagmimina. Yes. So imagine, bago ka pa mag-mine, you already think about the rehabilitation phase. Okay. So all of these are planned. So these are the 5 steps now or stages of mining: prospecting, exploration, development, exploitation, rehabilitation. The whole course, the whole EM10 is actually patterned in such a way that we will go through each and every single step. Okay. Yeah. So now there are modern, at least changes in what they do in terms of stages of mining. Sometimes they would actually combine prospecting and exploration into just one phase. They also do something very important or interesting nowadays in terms of commercial production or exploitation. They do what you call rehabilitation. Not just any rehabilitation, progressive or concurrent. What makes it progressive or concurrent is that even though you're extracting, in the extracting phase or the exploitation phase, nagre-rehabilitate ka na nung areas na tapos na. So, hindi naman kasi lahat bubungkalin mo all at once. So, may area siya at the time, di ba? So, yung tapos na, pwede mo na siyang i-rehabilitate. And that's actually a mandate of the DNR, of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Ang under nun, particular office is the MGB, the Mines and Geosciences Bureau. Sila ang nagdidictate ngayon. Lalo na nung after ni Gina Lopez na dumating, no? So, very, very adamant ang gobyerno na to make sure that progressive rehabilitation is being done. And then, after that is the decommissioning and final rehabilitation. And then, meron ng tinatawag na post-mining. So, after mining, what do you do now? So, you can actually, there are a lot of studies being done and to ensure that even after mining, there is minimal or they minimize the impact of mining. Okay? And that is the end of this lecture. Very short. Okay. So if you have questions, please put it in the chat.